The cursed relic. I should have listened to the warnings. I should have heeded the ominous whispers that slithered through the dusty archives like venomous snakes. But my insatiable thirst for knowledge blinded me to the dangers lurking within those ancient tomes. Little did I know that my innocent curiosity would unleash a malevolent force, one that would haunt me to the depths of my soul. It all began during my research trip to Cairo. As a renowned archaeologist, specializing in ancient Egyptian artifacts, I had been granted unprecedented access to the museum's restricted vaults. Amidst the towering shelves, lined with relics from bygone eras, one peculiar item caught my eye: a tarnished bronze amulet, intricately etched with hieroglyphs I had never encountered before. Ignoring the curator's hushed cautions, I carefully extricated the amulet from its velvet-lined case, eagerly examining its intricate details. Little did I know that this innocuous act would shatter the fragile barrier, separating our world from the realm of the damned. That night, as I lay in the stifling heat of my hotel room, the amulet seemed to pulse with an otherworldly energy, beckoning me into its cryptic embrace. Against my better judgment, I found myself tracing the intricate etchings, my fingertips tingling with each stroke. Suddenly, the air grew thick and oppressive, and a deafening silence enveloped the room, as if the very fabric of reality had been muted. In the eerie stillness, I became acutely aware of a presence, a malignant force that seemed to seep through the very pores of the amulet, coalescing into a shadowy figure at the foot of my bed. Its form was indistinct, a mere outline of darkness, yet its eyes burned with an intensity that chilled me to the core. Before I could react, the entity lunged towards me, its icy tendrils wrapping around my throat, cutting off my desperate cries for help. As I gasped for air, a cacophony of voices erupted in my mind, each one more haunting than the last, whispering secrets that no mortal should ever know. "You have awakened that which should have remained dormant," the voices hissed in unison, their tones dripping with malice. "The amulet you hold is a gateway to realms beyond your comprehension, and now you are bound to its curse." With a sudden burst of strength, I managed to break free from the entity's grasp, stumbling backwards in sheer terror. But as I clutched the accursed amulet in my trembling hands, I realized with horror that the nightmare had only just begun. From that fateful night onwards, the entity became my constant companion, a relentless tormentor that followed me wherever I went. Its shadowy form would manifest in the most unexpected places, lurking in the corners of my vision, whispering unspeakable horrors that chilled me to the bone. Sleep became a luxury I could no longer afford. For the moment I closed my eyes, the entity would drag me into nightmarish realms where unspeakable monstrosities awaited, their grotesque forms twisted beyond comprehension. I would wake in a cold sweat, my screams echoing through the emptiness of my apartment, my nails embedded in the flesh of my palms from clenching my fists too tightly. Desperate for respite, I sought help from every conceivable source, from religious leaders to occult experts, from shamans to mystics. But their efforts were in vain, for the entity seemed to revel in their futile attempts, mocking their pitiful efforts with a hollow, mirthless laugh that reverberated through the depths of my soul. As the months dragged on, my grasp on reality began to slip. The incessant whispers in my mind grew louder, drowning out the voices of my concerned colleagues and loved ones. I became a mere shell of my former self, a gaunt, haunted figure, plagued by the constant presence of the entity and the knowledge it forced upon me. One particularly torturous night, as I huddled in the corner of my study, rocking back and forth in a vain attempt to drown out the entity's taunts, I noticed something peculiar about the amulet. The hieroglyphs seemed to shift and contort as if they were alive, writhing like serpents across the tarnished bronze. In a moment of desperation, I began to decipher the glyphs, my trembling fingers tracing their intricate patterns. To my horror, I realized that they were not mere decorations, but a complex incantation, a forbidden ritual that promised to banish the entity back to the hellish realm from whence it came. With a renewed sense of purpose, I scoured every occult tome within my reach, cross-referencing the glyphs with ancient texts and deciphering their cryptic meanings. Night after sleepless night, I toiled away, my eyes strained and my mind teetering on the brink of madness, all the while enduring the entity's relentless torment. Finally, after what seemed like an eternity, I had pieced together the fragments of the ritual, my hands stained with the ink of countless translations. As the final rays of the setting sun filtered through the curtains, I carefully arranged the necessary components: a brazier filled with smoldering embers, a bowl of purified water, and the accursed amulet itself. With trembling hands, I began the incantation, the guttural words scorching my throat as I chanted the forbidden verses. The entity howled in rage, its shadowy form thrashing violently, as if sensing the impending threat to its dominion over my tormented soul. As the ritual reached its crescendo, the amulet began to glow with an unearthly radiance, pulsating in time with the frenzied beating of my heart. Sweat beaded on my brow, and my voice cracked under the strain, but I persevered, determined to see this unholy ceremony through to its conclusion. In a blinding flash of light, the entity let out a piercing shriek that shattered every pane of glass in my study. I watched in equal parts terror and triumph as its shadowy form was forcibly ripped from this plane of existence, sucked back into the abyss from which it had emerged. As the last echoes of its agonized wail faded into silence, I collapsed to the floor, utterly spent, the amulet clattering beside me. For the first time, in what felt like an eternity, my mind was my own, free from the entity's insidious whispers. But as I gazed upon the amulet, now dull and lifeless, a lingering dread coiled in the pit of my stomach. For in the fleeting moments before its banishment, the entity had shared with me a dire warning, a prophecy that hinted at a cataclysmic event, one that would tear the veil between realms asunder and unleash an unholy legion of nightmares upon an unsuspecting world. And as I sat there, trembling and alone, I couldn't help but wonder if my actions had merely postponed the inevitable, or if I had inadvertently set into motion a chain of events that would herald the end of everything we hold dear. The amulet lay before me, its secrets forever sealed, a silent sentinel bearing witness to the horrors I had endured. And in the depths of my shattered psyche, a solitary question echoed, one that would haunt me until my dying breath. What unholy forces had I unwittingly unleashed upon this world?